Very good morning to you and welcome to the morning brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Ozanga. Well, it looks like I'm alone on the program, but hey, not to worry. Kari will catch up with me at some point in the program. And it's been a very eventful last month into the beginning of this month, covering things like politics, things like that happen in the economy, as well as social spaces. If you've been following what's been playing out at the weekend, our responsibility, as always, is to bring you up to speed with the big happenings wherever they are happening, whether within the country or outside the country. But if it concerns Nigeria, you can be rest assured that we will be right here to break it down for you, binging through the major highlights and helping you make sense, as we like to say, of the situation, so that you can be the interpreter of the content and the information we put out there for you to be part of Nigeria's conversation, whether it's happening on the streets or it's happening in the big places. So today on the program, there's a lot that has to be done. But before we get to all of the details of what we deal with today, because we're going to binge through different sectors, from security to what's playing out in the oil and gas sector, to the agricultural sector, and many other things we'll talk about on the program today. But first up, there are some things we're really observing, and that has to do with what's playing out in the polity ahead of 2027. 2027 is technically, next year is 2026. This is 2025, almost to the last quarter of 2025. But the political hot air that has played out, I like to call it hot air because for now, a lot of rhetorics, a lot of conversation, a lot of I'm grandstanding more than you can. I know this space better than you can. I've done my heat map. I'm going to beat you in the next election. Now, as far as that is concerned, within the political space is quite safe. But there's something playing out that is a bit very concerning. And that has to do with two successive incidents. They say when coincidence is excessive, it becomes deliberate or deliberate. First, they can call it an accident. Second, they can call it a coincidence. The third, there's a suspicion of some kind of a deliberate attempt. But when it comes to political conversation, you don't take it for face value because there are so many angles. Sometimes in politics, 1 + 1 may not necessarily be equal to 2. Sometimes 1 + 1 can be as far as 22, shockingly. Well, that's how it plays out, at least within our climb here. So we don't take things as face value. We hear from this side, hear from this other side, and try to make sense, looking between the line and find out who is that trying to manage the truth or manage the lie, and where is the truth in between all of this. What am I saying with all of this? Now, the other day, we understood that the ADC in Kaduna State they wanted to meet at one of their venues, and thugs, they are alleging that these thugs are sponsored by the government to disrupt any form of gathering of the opposition. Of course, the opposition the ruling party keeps denying that they are not behind the orchestration of this instability within the parties. And now this has taken a bit of a violent tone, and which is very, very concerning. Well, the ADC is accusing the ruling party of being behind some of these attacks, or these attacks that have been recorded in Kaduna State. In fact, as a matter of fact, we understood and saw that letter from the police saying that certain persons complained about that meeting, its potential to cause maybe public breach of peace and all of that. And they've invited some of the leaders, including former Governor Nasser El-Rufai, to come and answer questions. Now, what was a bit confusing is that the ADC had met. They said thugs came and invaded, and we had pictures and videos of that invasion. The APC, or the ruling party, has said, you orchestrated this violence to make us look bad. They're saying, how can we gather and orchestrate violence against ourselves? That's why I say 1 + 1 is not always equal to 2 in politics. So in between those two statements, you need to look for the truth. Now, as though that was not enough, the police wrote and said, look, guys, come and answer a few questions about what certain persons had complained. I know you will be thinking that if people attacked you should be the one to lodge a complaint to say, I was attacked, please find out why they're attacking me. But it's the other way around. So what exactly is going on? Now we're trying to sleep on that, process that, and then we understand another one happened here in Lagos, where the ADC, we understand, was also expected to meet, I think in Alimosho. If you know Aregbeshola, he has a huge influence in Alimosho. I don't know for now, maybe because of falling out with the ruling party, leaving the ruling party, whether I still win that influence. But anyway, what happened was that I think the Labour Party governorship candidate who has now officially, according to him, defected from the Labour Party to the ADC, they said they were attacked here in Lagos in Alimosho when the ADC was supposed to meet. And of course, naturally, the fingers will be pointing in the direction your head, maybe processing is pointing at. So is it the APC that is causing instability and violence against the ADC? Or the ADC itself orchestrating violence against itself to make the APC look bad? Now, that's a question for you. I don't have answer to that question. I am not the police. I'm not the DSS. I don't know what is going on. I can only report to you. But that's why I say when coincidence is excessive, it becomes deliberate. So is this a deliberate attempt by the ADC to say the APC doesn't want us to have any rallying together to give them a formidable opposition because we look like the people that will give them a run for their money, given what's playing on the PDP and the Labour Party, and maybe the NNPP, or the APC itself is behind these attacks to make sure that they quench the fire of any form of opposition. The jury is out there. Now, it's your decision, it's not my decision to decide which part, who and who is saying the truth as far as this issue of politics and the interplay is concerned. But we'll be watching the days ahead and see what plays out. The rhetoric continues. But what should concern you and I, especially you and I, who are not the politicians here, who are the watchers and the journalists, is to be sure that there's space for everyone to associate, to gather, to do whatever it is they are doing, as long as it's legitimate and lawful. Anything outside that will be illegal. So that is what I've been processing at the weekend to find out exactly what exactly is really going on with this ADC, APC. I think the only difference in their name is A and D and P, because sometimes we wonder, is there really a difference between all of these political parties, Nigerian politicians and political parties? Let them not lie to you. We've spoken to all of them, and they may disagree, but the truth is that our political parties right now, tomorrow may be better, but our political parties right now, they are not run by ideologies. That is the truth. That's why they are jumping ship, including governors. So all of that. But hey, let's bring you up to speed with what is playing out as far as polity is concerned. Let's bring you what we're doing today on the program. As I said, I may not be alone, but let me remind you, I nearly forgot something. Let me remind you before we get to what's playing out today. Tomorrow on the program, this is quite important. You've heard a lot of things playing out as far as the new tax laws are concerned. A lot of people have been saying a lot of things about the new tax laws. The prominent among them is a 5% tax on PMS and diesel or some petroleum products. Well, and several other questions being raised about taxes. So for instance, how would your income be separated from people just maybe giving you money? With black tax in Nigeria, we receive gifts from family members and all of that. So how would they be able to separate your just act of kindness coming to you from income to be able to tax you? Well, the chairman of the Fiscal Committee and Tax Reform, Taiwo Oyedele, will be here tomorrow for about 30 minutes or 40 to answer every question you have on your mind as far as this tax issue and controversy is concerned. So I'm announcing to you ahead of time, we're going to roll our email address on the screen at some point so they can send all your questions there. What we want to do is basically to say what questions you want us to ask him, because you are the citizens that will be paying taxes, including you and I. What questions would you want us to ask Taiwo Oyedele? We'll ask it on your behalf. Just read it out to him and say, sir, these are the concerns Nigerians are raising. Is Nigerian government trying to collect tax on, trying to collect tax from people after they've said, okay, we're not going to collect tax for a certain bracket? All of that confusion is going to bring it to rest tomorrow, hopefully. All right, so let's bring you up to see what we're doing today on the program. Today on the program, the first thing we'll be doing today on the program has to do with what is playing out in Borno State. Borno State is yet again under another attack. About 60 persons also have been killed by terrorists. As far as these attacks are concerned, it's becoming heartbreaking. Sometimes it looks like there's a reprieve, there's a break from it. We understand that even 5 of our soldiers are now casualties of this particular recent attack. So what exactly has caused this resurgence of attacks in Nigeria? We will break it down with a military officer as well as a DSS officer to help us understand exactly what we're dealing with here as a country. So that will be our very first conversation. From there, we'll proceed to the issue around NUPENG. Well, NUPENG is saying that they will be downing tools from today. Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, that's NUPENG. PETROAN as well will be joining in, I think, tomorrow. And what is the controversy here? They are saying that Dangote Refinery is trying to persuade its truck drivers not to join unions. Unions are labor organizations. They are a pressure group within that sector, and they say they're not going to have it. That this is perceived monopoly by the Dangote group or Dangote Refinery, and that has caused a lot of problems. So we'll be dealing with that conversation today on the program. And from there, you remember what played out a few days ago, where the Enugu state government versus Sujimoto is a real estate guru, a young man who is into real estate, but there's a lot of trouble for him as far as this is concerned. They said they had a deal. Enugu state said they had a deal with him to the tune of 11 billion naira. They paid him 5 billion, and he didn't deliver as promised. Well, we'll look at all the angles to the best of our ability, but he should be heading to the EFCC hopefully today, and they'll speak with the EFCC where the Enugu state government actually summoned him to go and answer questions on why he has not given them back their money for not doing their work. He said he has his own explanation. His video was all over social media, literally crying, said, this is what played out. So we'll be delving into process and procedure when it comes to government and incidents like this. And from there, we'll land on the issue around food security. Yes, for me, this is one of the most important after security is food security. A professor who is a special advisor in the ministry will be breaking it down for us as far as the issue of food in Nigeria is concerned, whether it's for farmers or headers and all the things in between that sector. We'll be dealing with it today on the program. So, hey, that's exactly the outlook for the program today as far as the morning brief is concerned. Sometime in between, Karen may be joining us from outside the country. It's in far away. I'll tell you where when he comes on, hopefully on the program. But we'll take a break in just a moment. We'll be right back to look at what the dailies are saying as far as the dailies are concerned in Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be right back in just a moment. All right, so let's take a look at what the dailies are saying. Abuja Inquiry is where we'll start off from our guest, as always, Akintobi. It looks like, okay, not exactly the same color, but we're close.
We got the memo.
He's a public affairs analyst who will also break down what is going on with the papers as far as the national dailies are concerned. Dayo, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Always a pleasure to be here.
And I'm sure you're looking at what is happening in the polity as far as this is concerned. But let's get to first. Today, let's start with the Abuja Inquiry. They are leading with Tinubu supporters may cause unrest. DSS alerts X. Secret police pressure X to delete post. Amnesty, Sowore activist kick. So we understand that there was a post made by Omoyele Sowore. I think he used the word maybe I may not be able to use on air to describe the president and made his statement. And perhaps we understand that according to him, the DSS has taken responsibility, according to him, to report his account to the social media platform to say, look, take this guy out. But this is not the first time we're seeing these kind of things. But I don't think I would check, but I don't think the DSS has acknowledged that they have done that or not. What do you make of this particular headline?
There's a conflict between the right of freedom of speech and things such as respect to an institution. Within the context, if you look at it very narrowly, within the context of freedom of speech, anybody is free to criticize the administration in unglamorous terms. We don't have to sugarcoat our commentary simply because you want to be decorous. So he has said what he wanted to say, but the presidency is taking offense to it, that this is insulting. You have to respect the institution, no matter what you think about the individual. The presidency is something to be revered, to be respected, and to be dealt with courtesy at all times. That in spite of you having the right to speak your mind, you can't use certain terminology, and they've couched it under the guise of the fact that it could be inciting, that the followers and the admirers of the president could take this up and take it negatively and begin to have public disaffection. So remember, freedom is not absolute. You are free to swing your wrist, but your freedom to swing your fist ends where my nose begins. So not everything can be couched under this notion of freedom of speech, freedom of association, things like you even look at NUPENG now fighting for the right to unionize, and they're using this thing about freedom of association, that Dangote doesn't have the right to stop his tanker drivers from unionizing. So we have constitutional freedoms under so many different areas of human activity, but there's a limit to where these freedoms can go. They can't just be totally unrestricted. And you look at it and you say, in a public forum like X that is seen globally, is it proper to describe the president of the largest black nation in the world with certain inglorious terms? It is disrespectful, it is uncouth. The fact that you have the right to say what you want does not give you the right to debase the leader of the biggest black nation in the world. So whether DSS follows up on it or not, I hear they've invited him. DSS has not confirmed or denied, but the truth of the matter is we should, in public commentary, we should be circumspect. Just like you said a minute ago, I can't use this word on television. I can't say it. Right. Perhaps if you couldn't say it on television, maybe somebody else should not also be able to say it.
Maybe social media has a different set of rules.
Absolutely, but that's what we're saying is, even though it's social media, certain rules should be able to apply. It can't be the wild, wild west simply because it's online.
On the Abuja inquiry, Mr. Keto, before I leave, next week is lurking. Parents are like, oh Lord. School fees. School fees. If they've not paid already. You know, usually it's about, oh, let this school resume. Let these kids set out. Yeah. They say, as Abuja schools resume, parents groan. And the first liner says, parents in the Federal Capital Territory are counting in their pennies as new school session commences on Monday. I think this has to, they're pandering around issues of costs of everything. What do you make of it?
Well, it's interesting that Abuja is talking about it because it's a nationwide phenomenon. All schools are resuming this week or next week across the country. And what's also interesting is that there's been this very big conversation in the last few days in Lagos about house rents and how astronomical those costs have become. So by the time you now look at house rents escalating, you add school fees that are coming up, you add inflation in the marketplace for food items, you say, what's going to happen to the poor Nigerian man? Then, of course, there's a 5% tax that you're going to talk to Mr. Oyedele about tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a big day.
Which we don't know yet if that 5% is at the pump or if it's at the point of lifting. So we don't know if it's either way. That 5% is going to add to our cost. I've heard the argument that, well, it's not a new tax. The Minister of Finance has the right to implement it when he sees the time is right and the environment is conducive. All of the explanations around it, the bottom line is going to affect your pocketbook. So Abuja parents, Lagos parents all across Nigeria, well, this is a cross you have to bear, because at the end of the day, your children have to go to school. So sacrifices have to be made here and there. Perhaps cut out the DSTV subscription, cut out some of the non-critical.
The cable network will not be happy with the statements you make.
Well, the bottom line is we might have to sacrifice football for education of our children. Wow. So some things have to go. But at the moment, there's little or nothing the individual parent can do. The point is, the economy is tough. costs are skyrocketing. You can't blame the schools for increasing fees. They too have costs to pay. They have diesel costs, they have labor costs, they have feeding costs of the children. And so it's a knock-on effect at the end of the day that when costs escalate, inflation is up. The cost of delivering services goes up as well. So I don't blame the schools. They have no choice. If they want to stay in business, they have to raise their fees. And the bottom line is, when school resumption time comes, every parent starts to have palpitations because you know the drain is going to be on your pockets.
All right, let's get to the Vanguard newspaper. The Vanguard is next, is leading with one of our conversations today, but let me hear your input. I know you've said it in passing. Dangote NUPENG face-off. FG moves to avert nationwide strike. I know that they're meeting this morning. They've been having all kinds of informal communication. That the formal communication starts today, this morning. Someone's feuding parties to emergency meeting. Oil workers disown direct trucking drivers association, because even within the labor force in the subsector, they look like they are not together. Some are saying we will go ahead with our work. Others are saying no, we ain't doing it. Say body creation of union busters. NLC rally state councils, industrial unions for showdown. Falana asks FG to call Dangote to order.
I don't think we need to ground the nation to a halt because of this disagreement. I don't think it rises to the level of the kind of economic disruption even one day of a strike will cause. So this issue of unionization versus Dangote bringing in his own trucks to supply, I think as a business person, your thought process is completely independent of the social effects. You are simply looking at what is my bottom line, what is my profit. I think that if he has his own trucks delivering fuel directly to the pumps, I think it'll have a benefit to the average man. I think the argument
is not that. The argument is
union. I know.
Yeah.
I'm coming to it, but I'm saying that if you look at the cost-benefit analysis of going on strike simply because we don't want unions, I think that those who are applying to Dangote that want to drive his trucks, if they're already aware of the fact that this man says, I don't want my workers to unionize, they should go and look for work somewhere else. As far as I'm concerned, look, they have International Labour Convention that says workers have the right to unionize. But the fact that you have the right to unionize doesn't mean you must unionize. Did they ask the drivers themselves that, are you saying you must unionize? Some of them are ready to work. They just want to work and earn a salary. They're not interested in... The suspicion that this is the back door by Dangote refineries for monopoly. Yes, Dangote has always been accused and believed to be a monopolist and trying to corner this. If he is being a monopolist and his monopolization is benefiting the common man one way or another, which is what I was talking about, if he brings his 10,000 trucks and corners the downstream sector all the way to delivering to the pump, and it reduces the price I pay for fuel, will I not be happy? So there are three people involved here. There's the business people, yes, Dangote, and the people who they are fighting fighting with. Yes. And then there's us. Yes. For us, every fight is good for us as long as it brings down the price. Yes, the union people are fighting for security of tenure, their job losses, and all of that. Yes. Is that not a valid argument? That is why the MPs is bringing them to the table. It absolutely is a valid argument, and that's why the Constitution guarantees the right to unionize, because there's power in numbers, so you can fight for better working conditions. And I empathize with workers, but workers cannot hold a business person who borrowed money to create it. You can't hold him to ransom. He has the freedom to organize his business as he so pleases in a way that will enhance his profitability. This is a capitalistic society. If we want worker protection, let's go to socialism. Let's go to communism. If we want 100% cradle to grave welfare, whereby everything is guaranteed and protected, then we're not running the right type of system. We have free markets here. We have capitalism. What that essentially means is survival of the fittest. You've got to find a way by which, through your own, the sweat of your own labor, you sort yourself out in your own little ecosystem. So I think that there's a lot to be said for both sides of the argument. I empathize with the workers, but at the same time, I recognize the right of Dangote as a business person to maximize his profits. That's the bottom line. He borrowed money to do all this. He has to find a way to make that money back and pay off his debts and make some profit for his shareholders. That is important too.
Well, There's something, maybe we'll come back to it, but I'm seeing just beneath the picture on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, interest rates, manufacturers look beyond banks for survival. I know that the president has said that they met the target for, I think, non-oil sector.
In August.
In August, yeah. So, because, you know, when he said he spoke as a politician,
yes,
to a good extent, it's the fact that there, yeah, because when you're talking about revenue, you have to look at oil revenue from oil and non-oil. So yes, it's for speaking about that. But people it's now wonder, okay, you've done that, why are you still borrowing and all of that? So our job is to provide context. Politicians will speak as politicians. You can help them. But this other part that has to do with manufacturers looking beyond banks, because the good thing about what he said, if it is sustained, is, I've forgotten the term. If I remember, I'll say it. But when government goes to the private sector to mop up too much of the liquidity to run their own project, more than the private sector can have access to that amount of money, is really bad for business. So if they free up that space for private sector to do the borrowing, it's good for us. But there's a term that is being used. I've forgotten what it is. But let's go to the New Telegraph newspaper. 2027, lone opposition party going against APC may fail. That's according to the Labour Party. Party in consensus with Obi on it. Says confluence of all progressive opposition forces to emerge, take certain critical decisions. Bivo joined ADC in a hurry. I don't even know what to say. I'll leave that to you.
Well, we have a template for that already. Remember, in 2015, APC came into existence by being a coalition of other parties. So, to some degree, yes, if you start up an opposition and you are going alone into the game without bringing in other sectoral powers, you have a tough road to hoe. So, any viable opposition is a coalition of interests. So you see ADC, you see different people from different places. Aregbesola is coming from APC, you've got Obi coming from Labour, you've got Atiku coming from PDP, and you saw Gbadebo Rhodes Vival crossover from Labour into ADC this past weekend, the immediate past Lagos governorship aspirant from the Labour Party. So yes, no particular political entity can win elections in this country without having widespread appeal. And to have widespread appeal, say even in just the geopolitical zones, or 6 of them, to be able to do that, the way our politics is structured, we still play a lot of ethnic and religious politics. So we have parties that are strong in certain areas. NNPP, very strong in Kano. APGA, strong in the southeast. Labour, strong in certain areas. So if you've got to have so many states or so many regions to be able to win the country, you've got to have that kind of mass appeal. And to do that, you have to bring together all of the players in those various regions. So that's what essentially that article is saying, is that if the ADC thinks that, or even Labour or any other party thinks that by themselves they can wrest power away from the APC, it's not going to happen. With somebody like Tinubu who has never lost an election, and who did he? How do you define an election? I heard somebody arguing the other day, oh, he lost Lagos in this last election, and somebody was saying he may have lost Lagos, but he won the election, and the argument was, what is an election? You know, this is why they are suspecting that he is responsible for the instability in all other parties, because this is not the first time we're having opposition, but almost all the oppositions are in disarray. Now it's turning to a violent tone. But it's people, they are denying all of that. Yes. But, you know, our concern is as long as you guys are not killing each other, it's really none of our business. Exactly. Just put out the best candidates across the parties and let Nigerians make decisions. Yes. Before I let you go, the Guardian newspaper quickly is leading with something quite critical for all of us. National Grid faces 5.6 trillion naira revenue loss as premium customers exit. So we're looking independent power projects by, you know, manufacturers. You and I, who are being banned by Band A, we're looking at solar and all of that. Wind. And wind, and the federal government is already owing them a lot of money. And so this is a convoluted situation. What do you make of it in like 2 minutes? Yeah, people are getting creative with alternative power solutions. You see, even individual homes that are going off the grid now, that are using inverters and have banks of batteries powering their homes. Yeah, the electricity sector is in chaos, and it does need to be restructured from the ground up, because as you see, if manufacturers, if industrialists, power is so critical to everything that we do. And if we're not getting it, or we're not getting it at a competitive price, it complicates the entire economy and the value chain. It does. So when you see individual homes going off the grid, you see all these solar panels on people's roofs, you know that the situation is critical, because now we are generating our own power. We're already generating our own water. Now we're generating our own power, because we know we can't cope with the way the electricity sector is delivering services to us now.
I must thank you so much for coming on the program, Mr. Daya Akintobi. Always enjoying your perspective on this. We hope for a very beautiful week ahead, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
As you set out to all of your endeavors. As we begin to get, I heard today we may be having a lunar eclipse.
Yes.
I think somewhere around 8 p.m.
Yes.
Well,
it kind of started last night. There was something called a bloody moon or something.
Yes.
Something happened in the...
Was it yesterday night? Or
I saw something last night.
Okay, I'm not sure. But I think I saw it on one of the papers.
Yes, I think it happened last night.
So in case you didn't see it, maybe we'll see it again. Don't follow me here, but Nigerians are meant to see it. But must thank you. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Wishing Nigeria a very great week ahead.
Absolutely. And from here, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk security. And this is serious. 5 of our soldiers, we understand, have been killed by this dastardly terrorist, and including several of our civilian population somewhere in Borno State. The governor had to visit the place to commiserate with the people and do what he can. But how long shall we continue to lose our people and even our soldiers that will spend a lot of money to train? That's a question on our minds. We'll be asking the people who understand this space, and it's important that you be part of it, because security of citizens is a primary responsibility of government. Join us in just a moment. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's talk security. But Kayode joins me all the way from Taipei in Taiwan. Kayode, good morning. Is it almost afternoon where you are? I'm not sure. So whichever it is, good morning from here.
Well, Jeffrey, good afternoon. Maybe in order, because it's exactly 2:35. That's 25 minutes before 3 p.m. here in Taipei. Taipei, yes, indeed, as you said, is the economic, political, and education capital of Taiwan, the small island nation. And I'm just right here at the city's center reporting live. And Jeffrey, indeed, well, the local issues that affect Nigeria also have their own, well, will I call it the way they affect other nations as well, in terms of security, energy, and the rest. And it's important to always learn from other countries. They learn from us as well and compare notes. But Jeffrey, it is quite hot here, I must say. The weather in Nigeria is actually cooler this afternoon. But yes, I am live in Taipei, as you said. And of course, we'll be doing this together today, Jeffrey.
All right, good to see that you are good. I can see that maybe they'll just bring something around you to wade off the heat. Maybe would have sent you to somewhere around Kano first up, or the northern part of Abuja to feel the heat. But let's bring in our guest, Kayode. Let's bring in our guest. Brigadier General Usman Sani is a former spokesperson of the Defense Headquarters. He joins us virtually. General, thank you so much for coming on the program. We also have joining us Dennis Amakri, former Deputy Director of the DSS, joining us from the States. Mr. Dennis, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. By the way, I was Director Army Public Relations, not for the defense.
Okay, Director Army Public Relations. So, Mr. Amakri, before I come to you, I'm happy we have DSS that represents intelligence and the men whose boots are always on the ground. General, what do you make of this? 5 soldiers dead, several civilians dead. And these insurgents, we know that our military forces, we must commend them. They've done a great job in repelling attacks, in taking out and neutralizing these very cowardly elements that are disrupting the polity time and again. But when you heard about these recent attacks and the fatalities that were recorded, what do you make of it from somebody who has been experienced on the field?
Yeah, first and foremost, let me start from the last question. My heart goes to the families of all those that lost their lives and to the good people of Borno State, as well as the armed forces of Nigeria and well-meaning people across the world over the unfortunate incident that happened at Dar el-Jamal in Borno State recently, in which we lost quite a number of civilians as well as 5 soldiers. Before you talk much about that, you need to look at the context under which such things have, or rather such incident had happened. If you look at it, the Borno State government is making concerted effort to dismantle the internally displaced person, given the fact that peace has returned to most part of the country, part of the state, given the concerted effort in the counter-insurgency, effort. And the simple reason is that, first, there is happening, or rather there are happenings within the international or global geopolitics, in the sense that if you look at it, the United States is no longer giving aids and all the rest of the thing, which to a large extent help in sustaining this internally displaced person. So you have to look inward, and pragmatically, the Borno State governor decided to do that. That is issue number one. Secondly, the insurgents themselves, they are losing relevance in the sense that with this development, I remember recently the state government constructed over 5,000 houses, not using mud. They were using, modern, building materials and all the rest. So quite a number of people are not happy, not just necessarily the insurgents, because the IDP has become part of the war economy in which a lot of people are taking advantage. In fact, the insurgents themselves, leverage on the IDP to get information to sustain their family at the expense of the states, and beyond even the IDP, there were instances somebody who is not even married will claim to have 4 wives, and the Borno State initiative, and such families, they have to give them starter packs and all the rest. So you look at it from that context. Now, going back to Dar el-Jamal, people have been resettled, and of course, over time, the insurgents want to maintain relevance. Hence, they decided to disrupt the soldiers, by first, going to the forward operation base, FOB, then attacking the people. And of course, the military had to do all that it could. Thankfully, the Nigerian Air Force also came, handy in dealing with those issues. So these are the circumstances that brought about the unfortunate happenings. And I think the next way forward is for people to understand that we cannot continue with this protracted conflict. Now, semblance of peace has been returned, so we have to support the Borno State government and the good people of Borno State to ensure that there is security in, this ancestral home where people will go about their businesses without let or hindrance, and those who are aiding and abetting this should stop. So basically, that is it. And honestly, there is nobody, unless the devil himself, that will be happy with what is happening.
Mr. Makri, let's bring the intelligence angle. The Brigadier General has spoken about some of the perspective. So I want to find out from you, this has become more like a recurrent decimal. Sometimes if it fades, we don't hear so much, and then at other times it comes. So when these people, quote and unquote, succeed in such level of attacks, because we know that when they want to make a bold, loud statement against the sovereignty of our state, they go this route. Big casualty numbers, with our security agencies becoming part of those casualties. Where do we talk, where do we deal, how do we manage the conversation around intelligence to be able to scale down on this? Because some people say there's a failure of intelligence. Some people say there is a poor implementation of the intelligence received. In fact, as a matter of fact, the the Zamfara State governor the other day, I said, he knows where they are, he knows what to do, but is limited by powers. When you hear such things, you're a bit confused.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. Like you said, the Zamfara State governor has come up with his own, that he knows where they are, he knows even their names. Now, that is serious intelligence. It's very, very serious intelligence. I will not say that there is serious intelligence failure because the security agencies and even the military themselves have been doing a whole bunch. What I'm seeing right now, is that the insurgents are, they are panicking because right now they are hitting back. The military has taken a toll on them. And then, of course, they are receiving, should I say, a disunity between them. Boko Haram and ISWAP are on a serious clash right now. And of course, that even advised that attack that they had, because they believe that the community people were actually spying on them for ISWAP. So we have all these dynamics going on, but we cannot lose focus, because actually what terrorists want to do is to make sure that, they destabilize the military and the security agencies.
Let me stay with you and just get a sense of whether you are surprised or not, because the Borno State governor had been saying this time and again. He had said that Boko Haram is taking over. He had given a lot of warnings months ago. Yes, we can speak about the recent comments by even the president himself, who talked about state police and all of that. But are you surprised that this attack happened? Because that serves as some sort of intelligence to that even everyday Nigerians saw this build up to this point.
Yes, I am not surprised. I'm not surprised at this because when you look at it, there is a process that happens at the war front that many people don't understand. The military is out there, pushing on the insurgents, and as they either eliminate them or dislodge them from any village that they are, the police is supposed to come and take over that area, and then, of course, maintain law and order. But what we discover here is that after the military has done their work, the security intelligence people have done their work and, attack and kill so many of them, and then they leave. People are displaced, and then these people will always be watching out where the military is and where the people are. And they discover that these villagers are vulnerable, they're unguarded, even the IDP camps, because I don't believe that they are really giving those IDP camps enough, security to make sure that they are safe, because it has become a recruiting ground for the insurgents. In fact, sometimes they attack it so that they can get food and other kinds of amenities. So these are some kind of structural adjustments that we have to do, and the police have to get involved, get more involved, because it is not just running around Yahoo boys in the cities. These empty spaces have to be occupied.
Indeed. Let me come to General Eskilsman and just also get a sense of your thinking regarding what is next now. Because normally we'd hear condolences, would see visits and the rest, but it looks like we've not done something fundamental that we ought to do. We can talk about how security is handled in other countries. In the US, for example, the case is quite different. The people are saying, well, we want our military to only defend us from external threats, because we've seen President Donald Trump deploying the Ministry for Internal Issues. So they are saying, no, let military stay where it ought to be, what they signed up for, which is for external threats. But we have a very peculiar situation on our hands. I know people have said different things, but what are we missing critically for you, such that we are here time and again, and it looks like we take 2 steps forward and 10 steps backward, General?
There are quite a number of things, and if you want to put it in a nutshell, I think it's the issue of governance, either good or bad governance, simple and straightforward. However, when you want to dissect it further, you have to look at it in the sense that do we really give security of lives and properties in this country the necessary priority? Take, for instance, I'm so happy that Amakri has talked about the policing system, as it were. And the starting point is that anytime, anywhere, security challenges are predicated on 3 things: the political atmosphere, social and economic well-being of the society. To what extent have this been improved? Then what level of investment do we have in our policing system? Take, for instance, there is no country in the world, not even the Vatican, that does not have one form of policing system or other. Have we really repositioned our policing system to meet up with the challenges or the crime or the security challenges of the 21st century? That is one aspect. Then again, to what extent have we galvanized the Nigerian society, mobilized it, so that each and every one of us is on the same page when it comes to issues of national security or something that has to do with the existential threat to this country, as against, the divisive tendencies and the politicization of security. Then most importantly, again, beyond the policing, what of the other components in the security architecture? The military, and of course, even the Nigerian society. Take, for instance, almost 65% of the total population or more of this country are youth. How much investment have we invested in, on the youth in this country, so that each and every one of them has a sense of belonging that will contribute and aspire? Because if you look at it, bulk of those people involved in, perpetrating of these criminal activities, be it insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, hardly you will see somebody who is more than 40 years old. So it is just between 18, more sometimes less than 18 years to 35. So how do we come to that? It's simply because we have not taken advantage of this God-given blessing, which is the human resources in this country, and channel it accordingly. Because if you look at all these non-state actors, they are just filling a vacuum. And it is not just in Nigeria. Is it Hezbollah? Is it Muslim Brotherhood? Or is it ISIS? They are filling a vacuum in the sense that there are certain things they explore grievances and fault line, and basically that is it. So if you are talking about, how did we come to that? This is it. But now the way forward is that definitely the answer is issue of good governance, giving Nigerian sense of belonging, and understanding that the issue of security is not just a whole society approach, it's a whole nation approach, in the sense that every component of the society, yes, there are people that are statutorily responsible, to secure our, territorial integrity, lives and properties, talking about the military, security agencies, intelligence community. But what of the other component? Look at the Constitution is silent about the roles of traditional rulers and other components of Nigerian society. The National Security Strategy 2019 made provision for, a coordinating center, and the fact that every Nigerian has a role to play. To what extent have we ensured that such Nigerians, are given that role? But of course, it is not just given the responsibility. Have we really programmed Nigerians to live up to that responsibility in terms of giving them sense of belonging, improving their welfare, and not necessarily even that of the troops that on daily life, on daily basis, they sacrifice their lives and comfort for each and every one of us. So these are the issues. So we just have to say the truth and look at ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves the truth and say, look, enough is enough. No more politicization of security issues. Everybody has to be brought on board, and let us all be on the same page in the sense that anything that is happening in Borno has corresponding effect in Yenagoa and possibly in Birnin Kebbi and the rest of them. So unless we have that, and the leadership has that responsibility to coordinate and make sure that we are, on the same page when it comes to security issues.
All right. Let's take it to Mr. Makri. Mr. Makri has made a very important statement. Sometimes it's really difficult to find exactly what it is, but we use that word a lot. Maybe from an intelligence point of view, tell us, because we cannot separate that from what plays out in the polity. We've also noticed that politicians use insecurity as a means of instability to make a government look bad, and that doesn't have to do with, I mean, if we look back, way back, in fact, the current leader, the current political party in charge was accused of bringing Boko Haram. Certain persons were mentioned. Well, they've all denied all of that. But we know that as we get close to election cycles, insecurity seems to, have a spike. So there looks like there's a correlation. So when you hear that politicization of security, what do you think it really means? And okay, from an intelligence point of view, for Nigerians who don't understand, what does that mean exactly?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. You see, the politicization of security is a misnomer, because it brings a problem that cannot be well solved. Politics is separate from security. Security is the protection of lives and property of the citizens. Meanwhile, politics is politics, as we know it. But in Nigeria, we've come to discover that politicians, use security to achieve their aims by either directing the security agencies or, using them against maybe their political opponents and stuff like that. And that's the reason why we still don't have state police right now. Because many people have kicked against it to say that, oh, if we have state police, the governors are going to use it against, their opponents. But that is not to be. Because the security people or law enforcement, for instance, is supposed to have a set of rules. They are enforcing the laws of Nigeria, not the laws of APC or the laws of the president or the laws of anybody. They are supposed to enforce the law of Nigeria. And that's where if they do that, then everybody falls under the rule of law. And then, of course, it should be equal justice under the law. But when it is skewed, and the reason it is skewed is because politicians use it all the time. And you can find out structurally there's a problem. The structure here is that the DSS itself, the police, even the military, are all reporting to the president directly. They are not independent. So you can imagine if the president himself has, infringed on any of the laws, they cannot arrest their boss. So you also see that if we look back in history, there are other, even in the United States here, where Nixon was, he committed a felony by using illegal wiretaps. And the FBI told him either resign or we'll come and arrest you. And he resigned. That cannot happen in Nigeria because all this Department of State Services, Department of the Presidency, so they are not independent. And if we make them independent, then they can now carry out the objective or the national interest at heart.
General, let's come back to you on this. Has to do with the people. When we hear of deaths, especially if you hear killings in Plateau and Benue, in Borno, Zamfara, I think Katsina, some of the very hot spots that we deal with, sometimes you feel like if there's of course, what's in the military terms, the professionals called balance of terror in that sense, which is what the Republicans advocate for when they say, according to, I think, the Second Amendment, they are permitted to bear arms, because if you know you're coming to somebody's house and the person has a gun, you have to think twice. There is a 50-50 chance that you will survive, because you're coming to hurt, you could be hurt, or you could hurt the person. Isn't it time, besides state police, we begin to think differently about some of these very areas where the people are most vulnerable, to think of a way? I don't know, I'm trying to be careful here. Is it arming them for them to bear arms? Because they are helpless, they become easy target. Let's take it to Brigadier General. Would that be too much to ask, Brigadier General, before I come back to you, Mr. Macri?
Well, I think this your question is 2 days behind schedule, because we have passed that stage. I happen to come from one of the, frontline states, and of course frontline local governments in Katsina State. So I know this is a daily occurrence. The kidnappings and abduction, killings, and what have you. Already the people themselves are beginning to realize that it's not as if they lack confidence in the government or the security agencies. Self-preservation is the first law of nature. So people have started being proactive, because there is no point. You have a wife, children, parents, and possibly grandparents, and somebody will come and pick you up like a chicken. And of course, you will demand for a ransom that he has never had in the history of your family. So the best thing is to see how best you can organize and secure yourself. And that I had warned some time back when Arewa Consultative Forum had its inaugural, Board of Trustees meeting, that we are gradually turning into a Sudan, in the sense that people purchase arms just like they purchase granite on the street or in the market. And unfortunately, the implication of it is quite grievous, and it has started happening. Certain ethnic group will not enter certain, communities, and so on and so forth. But these are necessities. So, but the most important thing is, how do we mitigate the situation? Is to ensure that we maintain concerted efforts and onslaught against these criminal elements. Let us reach a point that even if we are thinking of dialogue, will be at a advantage position as against allowing people, to bear arms, and of course also going into negotiation, with these criminal elements on the terms that are not favorable to them. So that is it. Then, of course, there are issues of good governance, like I told you, especially infrastructural development, and in fact, education, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. To a large extent, bulk of these people that are involved, they are not even aware of the fact that they are doing the wrong thing, because to them it's more or less like a self-righteousness entitlement. Because I have had clips of negotiation. An average kidnapper look at himself as a victim, not even as a criminal element. And of course, we know it. The greatest undoing in this country is issue of justice, especially the criminal justice system. There should be a kind of form of reward and punishment. Those that are found culpable, the law should take appropriate measures against them without let or hindrance. And of course, Mr. Amachiri has alluded to the fact we have to understand the peculiarity of the Nigerian society, in the sense that, yes, the security apparatus are part and parcel of the government, particularly being controlled by the executive. And that is why issue of constitutional amendment should come into play, because anytime you are dealing with policy issues, the starting point is the legal framework. Let's even look at the police system in the first place. Now, we are talking about police, state police. Now, what happened to the constitutional provision where we have police council, where the president, commander-in-chief, is the chairman, and all the state governors and some others are also members of that police council? Within the last 26 years of our democratic experience, how many times has that council sat? Now, you look at the force headquarters, then you look at the Police Service Commission, you have the police Ministry of Police Affairs, and the Police Endowment Fund. So these are the kind of duplication of efforts and all the rest, and we can do better in the sense that we can streamline this thing and have a fair understanding and safeguard so that these people that are responsible for the safety of lives and property are doing it professionally without interference from any government agent or entity.
My sincere apologies, General. Totally out of time, but almost thank you so much. Mr. Makri, in just 10 seconds, should we be thinking of bearing arms for our citizens in vulnerable areas? Just 30 seconds, please.
I think that bearing arms, bearing guns is not just an easy thing like buying banana. You must know how to operate that weapon. Otherwise, you might even kill yourself. So, if people are going to bear arms, yes, under license. I will agree that they bear arms under license. Government should give license to those people, and they should be trained to handle it to protect themselves.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for bringing your expertise. Dennis Amakri is a former deputy director of the DSS. Brigadier General Usman Sani is a former spokesperson of the Army. Thank you so much for your expertise. We appreciate you both. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we have a lot more to talk about. Remember, the Enugu state government had petitioned the EFCC against Sujimoto. We'll come to that conversation in just a moment. But before that conversation, NUPENG is kicking off a strike today, saying Dangote Refinery is trying to start a monopoly. That will be the first before we get to Sujimoto issues. Join us in just a moment. We'll be right back.
All right, let's talk about the energy situation, particularly as it concerns the petroleum sector in Nigeria. We're joined by Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry, as one in charge of PETROAN. Mr. Gillis-Harry, it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, it's afternoon from where I am in Taipei, but it's all well and good. Let's talk about the situation with NUPENG and PETROAN also coming into the mix. Today is going to be a very important day to decide the fate of Nigerians when it comes to supply of petroleum, whether they're able to buy it or not. Where are we currently, and what are the issues at stake, Mr. Gillis-Harry?
Well, issues at stake is that we want the industry to operate in a way that all players are efficiently serving Nigerians. We have advocated that let there be a clearly defined role for all the players. Over 50 years ago, industry players have set up retail outlets. So you have several stakeholders in the industry. You have the major energies marketers, you have the depot and the petroleum product marketers, you have the independent marketers, you have the petroleum retail outlet owners association, that's the last mile in the industry. You have NATO that is managing the truck owners. You have NUPENG that is managing how our transportation is efficiently handled and training drivers and ensuring that the union is effective. And now we have a situation in the last few years, especially in the last few months, I believe from the month of June, we started getting this feeler of the Dangote Refinery wanting to involve itself in all the tiers of the business, from refining to storage to logistics, and then possibly finally retail outlet. So we have requested that, look, for purposes of efficiency, let us sit down on the round table and have this clearly defined so that we know exactly what each of us can do to ensure that we make the other one successful. And we are very anxious. Let's state that on record that we want Dangote Refinery to be very successful. And we keep repeating that because it's important. We don't want misunderstanding as to whether there is a fight. There's actually no fight. It's insistence on clarifying how things should be. Now it has gone to the point where workers' rights are being infringed, and that's why NUPENG has gone, giving the warning strike. It is not that they have gone on strike, but they've given a warning that, look, this situation can become very pesky and troublesome for Nigerians. So let us all get it solved. And I think that's the right idea. For PETROAN, don't forget that the most critical aspect of operation is our retail outlet staff. And the people who are handling this are in the union. So once NUPENG strike takes effect, our stations will effectively be locked out. So we have called the government to intervene, and I believe that that has yielded quite a lot of positive results, because as of yesterday, there's been quite a lot of consultation going on amongst the stakeholders and also the government and also the regulators. So we believe that there will be a solution. And the solution is simple. Everybody should be on the table and let all of us do what we must do cooperatively and ensure that the Nigerians are served much more efficiently. I think that's just the whole story. There's no extraordinary explanation that should be better than this.
So Mr. Harris, let's find out a few things and be clear. Is it mandatory that all truck owners, for instance, which, correct me if I'm wrong, which is the bone of the contention here, must belong to a union?
Well, it's much better for efficiency that, for instance, if every retail outlet is doing just what they want to do, then you go to a station and then you have, you pay for maybe 2,000 naira petrol, and then you get 800 naira. And there'll be no sanctions because there is no,
Oh dear. Okay. Network has, well, we'll try to reestablish connection with Mr. Gillis Harris, the president of PETROAN.
You know, internal.
Oh, he's back. Please go ahead. At the moment, we didn't hear you anymore. All right, Mr. Gillis Harris, I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, we're trying to reestablish connection with you. But if you're just, we're trying to talk about the oil and gas sector, where there seems to be some disagreement as to operations and how things are meant to be done. Dangote Refinery had actually bought about 4,000 trucks, as you know, CNG-powered trucks. And I was doing the numbers to say, because he said he's going to be lifting from his refinery straight to the destination, and that brings about the 4,000 trucks to be about 5 trucks per local government, which is massive. But now the issue of membership of truck drivers to union is a big problem. Mr. Harris, you were saying some things before the network cut you off. Please continue.
So what I was saying was very simple to understand. We definitely pledge to make Dangote's refinery to be very efficient and then be very successful in our own little ways. But we also need to be clear about what every stakeholder in the industry is doing. We want Nigerians to be the better for it. And whatever action that's taken is actually on behalf of ensuring that the Nigerians are dealt a better blow, I mean a better deal. So that is what it's all about. Now your question is everybody supposed to be? Yes, I was telling you that if there is no union to be able to put some level of internal regulation and discipline, then everybody will do what they want to do. But right now, that is not the case. Tanker drivers cannot just operate anyhow they want to operate. Take your products and you don't see the product for 10 days, and sometimes you may not see your tanker. It's NUPENG and PTD are doing a great job in ensuring that that is properly, taken care of. So those are the situations.
So, Mr. Gillis Harris, let's find out if you talked about efficiency and, of course, security of tenure for the workers who are truck drivers and maybe truck owners and all of that, so they don't kick them out of business by what, according to the write-up I saw, perceived monopoly. But if the system, if that subsector was efficient, do you think Dangote would have gone ahead to secure 4,000 CNG-powered buses, trucks rather?
Well, it's a business decision that his company has chosen to make. And we are not in any position to dictate to him what to do, what not to do. But we are in a position to say what we will not do. What we will not do is to look at the industry that everybody has toiled to build to this point to serve Nigerians, to just be all crumbling into the hands of one company. That's what we don't want to happen, because we have experiences in past in different segments of the economy that such experiments have not really yielded good news for Nigerians. So that's our issue. So if we all do our part and everybody is led to be in the business, so long as you're licensed to do the business, you should be able to do. We've had similar experiences in America where Standard Oil was decentralized. So we can also look at how that works. And of course, always the government that comes in to intervene and give some level of limitations as to what should be done in order to accommodate everybody in the industry. So that's where we are. So there is no reason why we should start to change the rules at this time. Nigerians, NUPENG has served Nigerians very efficiently in the last decades of years. So, and there's been no complaint about that.
I remember that when the Dangote refinery came on stream, Mr. Dangote's close friend, Safemi Tedola, penned a statement online, where he spoke about the old regime being gone in some sense, asking that some people, pack up or sell their businesses for scrap because they've held Nigeria back for quite some time. So I want you to speak to those who see this as, quote, the oil industry fighting Mr. Dangote back. I know PETROAN has also raised concerns around possible, monopolistic tendencies and the rest. Is this what is also happening here? Is this people also trying to just hold on to their stakes in this very lucrative industry so Dangote doesn't take over entirely?
It is more for efficiency and more for inclusion. The more companies that are in the business, the more employees we'll have, the more even the internally generated tax payments to the government will come, and the clearer it will be. Because, look, we are 230-something million people. So one company cannot do that service so I think even for any one person to make that position that all other companies should be scrapped. After all, he was part of us. He was part of us. He started with us in the Riverine petroleum product, marketing. And then he got to this point where Dangote has done a very great job by ensuring that there is this size of investment. And we all support that. But while we are supporting that, we need to be in business also. And the way to be in business is that everybody understands exactly what their limits are.
Pardon me, Mr. Harry. Let me rephrase this. Are you concerned that Dangote refinery has monopolistic tendencies, and that might not mean well for Nigeria's economy? Are you also concerned? Because I've heard
that's exactly what we're saying. Because the end result is the stability of the economy. We have a situation where similar experiments have been done in the areas of cement and sugar and other things. And what has Nigerians got for that? What is the price of cement today? And what is the guarantee that it will ever come down to 400 naira per bag?
All right.
So we need to be realistic, and there is anybody just saying what they want to say because they feel that they have the opportunity to say should go back and compute the resultant effects in the coming years.
So just to be clear, when are you possibly starting a strike? Because I know you threatened
we have only given solidarity support, because when NUPENG goes on strike and PTD is called off the road, we will not have drivers that will bring our products. Then also our station workers are part of the union. They will not come to work. And once that happens, the stations are effectively going to shut down. And we are saying, please, government come in before that situation sets in. And the government is responding. So I give credit to the President Bola Ahmed-led government, the Honorable Minister of Petroleum, Honorable Minister of Labor, and the Secretary to the Government of Federation. They are doing a great job. The ACE of NFDPRO, they are all ensuring that no stone is unturned to make sure that this situation is resolved.
Well, we have to anchor at this point, but a very interesting day will be to see the outcome of that meeting, to see Dangote Refinery's position after this. But we have to thank you so much, Mr. Billy Gillis-Harry. He leads the Petroleum Retail Owners Association of Nigeria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
We'll take another break now, and when we return, it's Enugu State versus Sujimoto, EFCC in the mix as well. What exactly is going on, and what is at stake here? That's our next port of call. Stay with us.
A realtor in Nigeria, young man who is doing big things in the real estate sector, Sujimoto as he's called, is now under fire over alleged fraud by the Enugu state government, alleging that, and has petitioned the EFCC. Just to give a recap of what has played out from the statements on both sides. The Enugu state government said they contracted him to build a number of smart schools to the tune of 11 billion naira, gave him upfront of 5 billion naira to execute the project within a timeline of about 6 months or so that this September or so, schools will resume, students will resume in these smart schools, the building only. Well, they said he didn't deliver on those projects. He was nowhere to be found when they tried to reach him to have an understanding of what was playing out. They visited the place to see the progress of work. They said it was substandard and some of the things that were done, and more and more and more and all of that. Well, Sujimoto has come out to say that is a misrepresentation of the fact. Look, I did my bid. Well, the cost that at the time we agreed for the contract was not the same, and I had to, deploy resources on other projects of mine and back and forth. Well, all of this will be handled by the EFCC now. Today or tomorrow, both sides will be speaking with the anti-graft agency to know how to resolve the issue. But a gentleman has a different perspective, and he's looking at something beyond this particular deal. And well, let's bring him in. Akintunde Babatunde is Executive Director, Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, joining us virtually. Ms. Akintunde, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. I know that you're not just looking at 11 billion, 5 billion, and it's in between. You're looking at things in between the line, and that has to do with procurement processes, procedure, how government bids, and all of that. Help us make sense of what is of interest to you that will be of benefit to the public.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think that when discussions like these happen, you ask yourself, why do we always have conversations like this in Nigeria? First, to start from the declaration from the EFCC of Sujimoto, when that happened, the narrative was that it's been alleged of money laundering and a lot of other things. So it begged the question as to what was going on. And so when Sujimoto came on board to explain that, this was about a deal with the Enugu state government. And a few things that he said, there were a lot of red flags in there. First was to mention that the costing of the projects was not going to be sufficient for implementation. And when he made that clear to the governor, it was promised that, don't worry, by the time you're done with this, there are bigger projects for you. That is the first red flag. A private company should not be executing projects when the funding, when the costing wouldn't be insufficient to carry it out. You're not government. Why would you accept for such kind of engagement in the first place? That's the first red flag. Then the second red flag is the fact that there's a promise of a bigger project. You have not delivered on the first project, then you're being promised that, don't worry, even though the costing is not going to be sufficient for you, you would get compensated in the next project. Then that has already made a mess of public procurement processes. Then we got to see the statement from the Enugu state government that says, "Oh, ignore this guy." The contract is about 11 billion. Government even paid upfront of 5 billion. That's another red flag, because a public procurement process does not require that you should pay upfront of 50%. In fact, you shouldn't pay beyond 30%, according to the procurement laws. Another red flag: why would government be so, nice, to pay an upfront of 50%. Another red flag was that they both agreed that the project would be completed in 6 months. How do you get to start a project from the scratch, a building project from the scratch, for that much money, and then you're gonna get it ready in 6 months? Are you a magician? That's not gonna be possible. That's another red flag. Then another red flag was that the state government had claimed that when the bidding was happening, he had issued a Jais Bank bond, but the payment was made to a Zenith Bank account. Why would the reason why there's a bond in the first place would be that if the contractor, the procurement procedure says when you get upfront payment of about not more than 30%, then at each milestones, so there are milestones, how many projects are we going to get on? By the time you are done with this number, you will get, mobilized for the next one and for the next one. And if peradventure the contractor defaults, then the bond would insulate the government from, getting into this kind of situation. So the fact that the payment was made to another bank account other than the bank account that was issued with a bond, why was a payment made? Whoever made that payment, whatever procedure led to the payment into the Zenith Bank accounts, that needs to be questioned. That's another red flag, right? So you have about 5 to 6 red flags, and I think another red flag is the fact that all of this happened, and nobody, in the public, citizens, the media, civil society, did not get to know. There's no public record of the details of these contracts anyway, until we got to hear that EFCC declared Sojimoto, wanted. So another red flag is the fact that this company, does not have a track record for this kind of projects. So what led to the decision? How many companies bidded? Was there bidding? Was there competitive bidding according to the law for that kind of amount? What process did, was it announced in a newspaper? According to the procurement procedure, those things are not in the public. So you have too many red flags that I think are potential, are issues that we should potentially interrogate, because we cannot start, dealing with this issue on the surface level without looking at the fundamental, collapse of the public procurement process. When you look at the level of total disregard for the law, when you look at the anyhowness and the arbitrariness that went into all of that, I think those are really, really, really questions that begs for answer that we should really, really interrogate.
Let me ask.
Very valid points.
Okay,
Kaide. But Jeffrey, go ahead.
No, Kaide, go ahead, please.
Sure. I just wanted to chip in and say, Akitsode, we probably have multiples of this happening across board in other states, even at the federal level, as we speak right now. So it's no shocker that we have abandoned projects, issues around that. It's when you really dig deep, you see these issues. I just want to be clear on what you have said. Are you saying that, in fact, the EFCC should not just be investigating the CEO of Sojimoto, it should also be investigating the Enugu state government? Is that what you're saying as well?
Absolutely, Kaide, and there's an interesting twist to what you said. a few years ago, the World Bank, introduced a program called the State Fiscal Transparency and Accountability Sustainability Project, SEPTAS. And that project, was a grant of about, I think the initial one was $750 million, then another additional $75 million that said, oh, we need to encourage state governments to be transparent. So state governments would have, their procurement process on an online platform, open contracting platform, so that, once contracts are awarded, you get to see the details. It's interesting that a lot of states, started putting up procurement portal everywhere because they needed to access the grants. And a recent, report by the Foundation for Investigative Journalism showed recently that about 80 to 90% of those platforms are dead now because the state got the funding. They opened the portal for a few days, but when the process when the project finished, they pulled it down. That's not even the scandal. The scandal is that citizens started looking at the procurement portal. Then they were seeing, ridiculous amounts of money for ridiculous projects. They were seeing over-bloated contract costs. Because of that, state governments are not even interested in being transparent. So they put those platforms down. So it's not just Enugu state government. I think that EFCC should, as a matter of, allegiance to the states, to the Nigerian state, and to the people, they should ask questions. How did Sujimoto got mobilized for 50% against the procurement law? Why was payment made into Zenith bank account as against the bond account for the bank that issued the promised bond in the first place? So those are questions. But generally, there is a culture of opacity in the way that public finance processes are, executed in the country. When I was actively on the field, conducting investigations, there was a time you would see projects, millions of naira allocated for those projects, and then you would get to know that the contractors were only there for a few weeks. They put down their equipment. You look at the procurement process, you see that the cashback had been released and all of those things, then you don't get to see them anymore. When they get to know that, some people came to ask questions, they will come for one day, they would be there, then they will leave again. We have seen reports in this country. We've seen reports where contract for the construction of classroom was awarded to a restaurant in this country. So you look at all of so there's a lot going on, at the subnational level, and it's so sad that nobody knew that a contract of 11 billion naira was awarded, and government was very generous. What we used to hear was that they awarded this contract and we were not mobilized, but 50% upfront. Who does that? Who approves the payment? So those are questions, and I think the FCC should ask questions from all parties involved.
And I'm sure they will do that questioning on our behalf because there's a lot to ask. As you said, we can pick a lot of holes. In fact, as a matter of fact, one of the biggest red flags for me is that the bond was from Jay's bank, payment was made in Zenith Bank. There's no way you will not. There's some complicity within the government itself for that to happen, because it's as simple as the law. So everybody must look inward. So the government also must need to answer question. But I must thank you for bringing that very brilliant perspective as to processes and procedures as far as procurement is concerned and transparency at the subnational levels, just like we check at the national level. Akintunde Babatunde is the Executive Director, Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And from here, we'll go straight to issues around food security. We'll bring in the Senior Special Advisor on Agricultural Innovation, Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security in the Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Professor Ademola Adenle. He joins us in our Abuja studios. Prof, thank you so much for coming on the program, and thanks for your patience. All right, I hope, Prof, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, fantastic, Prof. I like to have conversations around food security. You can spend 2 hours, 1 hour talking about food and food security because it's the most basic, it's the most fundamental. Before we talk about anything, in fact, even in war, we have to eat. That's how critical food is. And so having you is quite important to us. But within the time we have, let's see what we can make of it. The inflation numbers, if I'm correct, about 22.7% or so in terms of food inflation. The inflation has been moderating both the core and the headline and then the food, but the numbers are still high. Prices had gone up at some point and then they are coming down, but Nigerians are saying we are not where we used to be. What do you make of our food security situation? Because I can drill down into the smaller unit, but let's start generically. What do you make of our food security situation in Nigeria? Why do we need to still do some importation? Why do we need to do the things we do?
Right. Thank you very much for that question. I think the national food security must be achieved because it serves as the foundation for prosperity and, of course, and stability. And of course, it must ensure that every Nigerian have reliable access to safe nutrition. And of course, it strengthens our economy by reducing costly imports, and that is why we need to be food secure. And of course, there is obviously challenges. There are challenges with regards to food insecurity in Nigeria, and government has been working very, very hard to reduce the level of food insecurity by rolling out a wide range of intervention. And I'm going to touch on that at some point. Of course, we are aware of the fact that, there is food inflation, high prices of food, which of course, government has been working very hard to address these challenges. If you look at it, food inflation stood at 41% in 2024, but as of last month, it has reduced to 23%. That means, we are stabilizing despite some sort of high prices. And that would not have happened without government intervention across agricultural sector. And let me just give an example of, government rolling out a national mechanization program where it has taken delivery of 2,000 tractors to expand agricultural production and ensuring food security. And no government in the history of Nigeria has done that. I'll give an example of the fact that we have about 17,000 tractors in use, but only 7,000 are functional, right? And of course, we need, some sort of training center to train some of our, personnel in how to use the tractor. And of course, government has been putting initiative that will help ensure that this is happening. And of course, over the next 5 years, government is going to, launch a program that will bring more tractor to the country and expand the food and agricultural production. That's one of the areas government is trying to tackle food security problem. And the other program across agricultural sector that are engaging youth and women in agribusiness. There is the partnership with IITA, where government effort is focusing on youth scheme. That
all right, bro, if I may come in, if you can hear me, bro. If I may come in just a moment.
Provide startup grant.
If I may come in.
And agribusiness.
Yeah, my apologies if I may come in because of time. Yeah, sure. So you mentioned efforts of government, but my question had to do why we continued to import. But with greater respect, for context, so that people are properly informed, the inflation did not go down from almost 40 to 22 or so because of reforms necessarily. No, it has come down, but it came down drastically. And in economics, we don't really say come down because it was rebased. So I need to provide context to that. So year on year, between now and next year, we'll be able to know exactly what progress has been made. Rebasing brought the numbers to the 20s, although they were in their 30s, almost 40s, depending on the numbers you look at. I wanted to put that in context for the purpose of educating our public. But where I'm going to again, we're happy that, well, some people may disagree, the president has said share is no longer going to be exported, where we begin to look at adding added value. Why do you think we're not aggressive with value addition, especially around our cash crops? And it is now we look like we are waking up from our slumber. And what has to be done to aggressively scale?
Right. That's a very good question. And Nigerians are producing cash crops such as ginger, palm oil, cotton, but they are exported in raw or semi-raw forms. That means there is not enough value addition, simply because of the fact that there is, obviously low capacity in terms of processing and the infrastructural gap as well. So what do we need to do is to obviously invest in research and development program that obviously target industrialization. I mean, there's a huge disconnect between, university, academic, and industry. So we need to close that gap. And one of the things I believe government is trying to do is to engage the Ministry of Science and Technology and of course, Ministry of Agriculture to come up with a bold policy that will obviously encourage research and development program. Because as a percentage of GDP, Nigeria invests, I think, about 0.2% as far as research and development program is concerned, compared to industrialization or industrialized country that invests an average of 2.2%. So I think we need to actually, drive innovation that is obviously involving the university and industry in order to add value addition to this cash crop. And of course, it will help expand agro processing at local agro processing and export diversification, because that is very, very important, because you will turn this crop to engine of job, of obviously creating job, and then integrating farmer into global value chain and ensuring global competitiveness. So I guess that area is very, very important. Without bringing, the research community and the industry together, we are still going to be having some problem. And that is why government, we have to work towards investing in research and development program where enabling policy is being created by the government.
You won that award, that Swaminathan Award for Food and Peace from India, and that's beautiful to see. I mean, you're one of many Nigerians making the country proud globally in that sense. But when we come back home, we begin to look at the reality and we try to piece it together and say, we seem to have the brains, we have, well, I'm not sure about the intentions, right, across board, but it looks like everybody wants food, because nobody can survive without food except you're an Android device or a robot, right? So it looks like at least it will make sense that everybody wants food to work. But look at the data, Dr. Dinley. The average age of farmers in Nigeria is nearing Nigeria's life expectancy in that sense. So the average age of farmers is about 50, and life expectancy is, 55 or so. So it looks like our farmers are nearing extinction in that sense. Majority of young people do not think that that is the way to go. So when you talk about investment, are we also considering human capital investment in farming? Because we can talk about research all day, which is very important, but who would activate, who would implement whatever it is we find that we need to do to fix food security in Nigeria?
Right, that's a very good question, and thank you. That primarily target youth in farming. Perhaps we've not been doing that enough. And the government need to create an incentive program that will attract, youth to farming and, of course, agribusiness. And how we get to do that is to obviously, bring youth together and start talking about importance of agriculture in our economic development. And we've not harnessed that potential. And one of the ways to do that is to obviously bring youth on board, then of course create enabling environment, because we need the resources. Infrastructure is obviously very important to agricultural development, road infrastructure, because you need to connect farmer to the market. Without having, road that, farmer can use to take their good from the farm to the market, we're going to have problem. So some of the fundamental challenges has to do with the infrastructure as well, and the building local capacity. Local capacity is also very important, particularly among our scientists. We need to encourage them, giving them all the necessary incentive that will obviously encourage research that is relevant to development of nation. I'll give you an example. I know probably you're going to ask me at some point. We are developing, for example, genetically modified organisms. We don't have enough local scientific capacity that will help regulate it, despite the controversy, despite the benefits and potential concerns that are associated with the application of GMO. So government needs to invest more in infrastructure, in local capacity. That is obviously very important. And by so doing, it obviously encourages some of our youth to actually, engage in agribusiness, because that one is very, very important. Without looking at the underlying challenges, we are still going to keep struggling for a long time. And I do believe that, one of the things I've been emphasizing to government is, investing in research and development program, investing in infrastructure development, and investing in human capacity, human capital development. That is always very important. Our primary education, our institution, all of those are critical factors in developing our economy and our great business. Without doing or addressing these fundamental challenges, we can't move forward. And I do believe the current administration is looking at that very carefully, and that is why they are engaging, a wide range of stakeholders, including private sector, policymaker, government official, NGO, to solve this fundamental challenge. Particularly at the national level, because it all trickle down to the local level as well. When it's properly addressed at the national level.
I wish we had a lot more. We keep racing against time when we're discussing issues, but we would have talked about the issue of the livestock sector. I know that I was speaking with one of the gentlemen who is in that sector, talking about the volume of milk we get from each cow, less than 2 liters, when some people are doing 40 liters. And you can know the byproducts, almost 13 of them. But I must thank you so much for coming to the program. We must also mention that you made history on the global stage as the first recipient of the World Academy of Sciences and Swaminathan Award for Food and Peace. I think it was awarded by the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Who is presenting that award to you. This looks like, I think it's called the Mini Nobel Peace Prize. So congratulations to you. Maybe some other time we'll have the time to explore you on this particular part of your award.
Thank you very much.
We're proud of you as a Nigerian for putting us on the global stage, and we're happy. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program as well. All right,
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, fantastic. Professor Ademola Adenle is a SSA, that's Senior Special Advisor on Agricultural Innovation, Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. And that's it on the program. Kayode, far away, being heated up in Taipei. I'm looking at your face, Kay. I'm like, oh my God, my brother is feeling the heat. But it's good for the business. That's
to be fair, Jeffrey, it's what it is. It's the weather. People are getting used to it. And you should know that there are a lot of tourists who are still trooping into this island nation. And just over my shoulder is the Keelung River, by the way, which is also a major tourist attraction. But hey, it's part of the job. I'll be fine. We'll be having meetings with journalists from across the world over the next couple of days.
Yeah, fantastic. So make us proud, get us what we need to have in the few days you're going to spend there. But before we go, let's tell the people that tomorrow we're dedicating about 30 to 40 minutes to the issue of the new tax laws. Remember, by January the 1st, the new tax laws, 4 of them will kick in. Now, there has been so many talks, maybe misinformation, over-information, under-information, we don't know. Taiwo Yedele, who is the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Tax Policy and Fiscal Reforms, will be here And we've captioned it, what is true and what is false? Oyedele will explain tomorrow those big questions on your mind, those things you're hearing on the social media. You say, is this true? What? Well, our email address will be scrolling on your screen, so send us a message, your question, because we don't just want to ask questions. We want to ask your question on your behalf to him so that he can respond to it. We're giving it some good time on the program, hopefully tomorrow. So send in your question, especially the very one that is very touchy for you as far as this issue of tax reforms, the new tax laws are concerned. So tomorrow is a big one. Coyote. And that's it on the program. Thanks for your time and company from right here in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And from here in Taipei, Taiwan, thank you for being a part of the show. Have a great day ahead. Sunrise Daily is next. Goodbye.